Hey everyone, how's it going? My name is McKay Tebbs and welcome back to class. Today we are going to be doing some Pro Tools lessons for Pro Tools Chapter 5 and Chapter 6, recording your own Pro Tools session and then importing files into your Pro Tools session. So I've got my guitar here. And we're going to do some recording today. I'm going to record my guitar in for you. So anyway, let's jump into it, get started. One of the first things that your book mentions that you do when you get started recording is you're going to create a click track. Now, a click track is kind of important. It's a metronome beat. It's something that a musician can keep time to. So if you're recording a live musician, it helps them to have a click track going so that they can line everything up with the bars and the beats. And so to do that, you're going to first of all come up to your Pro Tools session and go to track, and then come down to the bottom of the track list where it says create click track. And it's really as easy as that. As soon as you do that, you have a click track created. Now, what you're probably going to do if you're not used to Pro Tools or using this or doing this, you're probably going to try and create a click track from the normal create track list. So if you go to track and you go to new, that might be what some of you do, and you come down here in this list and you look at it and you're like, it doesn't say click track anywhere. Where's my click track? Man, how do I do that? So anyway, click track is special, and it just gets its own menu in the drop down track list. Right down at the bottom, you just push create click track. So right now we have a click track created, and if I push play, you won't hear it yet because there's one thing you got to do before you can hear it. And that is right up here in the MIDI controls, you have this metronome button. And in order to hear your click track click, you have to click it and put it on. So that's a toggle button to turn on and off your click track. So now, when I push play, I can hear it. So if I click that toggle off, you can't hear it. If I click it on, you can hear it. Right, so go ahead and practice doing that a couple of times, clicking that on and off. Anyway, that can be very useful. That could be very useful during a session because sometimes you want to metronome click, sometimes you don't. So hit that button there. Another thing you can do to mute the metronome click is to just hit the M right here, and that will mute it as well. So it's still clicking. You can see the meter showing up right here, but you can't hear it anymore because it's been muted. The M is for mute, and the S is for solo. So a solo track will play that track all by itself. So anyway, so that's how you set a metronome up, and now you've got it. But there's other things to control or that you want to work with. For one thing, you might want to work with the tempo. So one way you can set the tempo is by clicking down here in your transport window and typing in a new tempo and then hitting the return button. And now when you push play, it's a lot slower, right? So anyway, that's how you customize the tempo of it. I'm going to go back to 120. Okay, and then another thing you can customize on your click track is the sound of the clicks themselves. I'm going to come here to the plugin for the click. It's right here. I'm going to double click on that. And just so you know, if you're in the mix window, you also have your click track here, and you have that same plugin right here on the top. So you could click on it there, or from the edit window, you could double click on it right there, and it shows it to you again. Anyway, two different ways of accessing the same thing. But now I can customize the sound of the clicks. So first of all, you have click 1 and click 2. Click 1 is beat 1 of the click series, and then click 2 is beat 2, 3, and 4. So did you notice that beat 1 is accented? It's a little higher in pitch, and then beat 2, 3, and 4 are softer. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, that's something that kind of helps you to keep track of where beat 1 is or where the downbeat of every bar is. So it can be useful. Sometimes I kind of don't like it actually, so I'll make click 1 sound the same as click 2 so that they all sound the same. That's a personal preference. But go ahead and push play, and while it's playing, scroll down the list right here and audition some different sounds. So here it's playing. Let's go with bells. How about a cowbell on the accident mode? I like that. I'm going to come down here and I'm going to put cowbell on the other one too. Yeah, maybe that's the kind of click I want. Or maybe I just want, let's try hollow pluck and see what that sounds like. Yeah, that's got a thump to it there, you know, I could definitely keep some time with that. How about, I don't know, blocks? Let's try the block. Yeah, that's kind of a little more subtle there. That might be better. And then if I want to make the accented note go away, I'm going to make it be the same. So it says comp block down here. So I'm going to find that same one, comp block. And now you can't hear that accented beat at all. So anyway, that is how you that's how you change the way your beat sounds when you have a metronome, and that's how you set up your metronome click. So we're going to close that now. So we're going to get into recording now. So we have a click track set up that we can sync with. Now we need to record the instrument. And one of the first things you got to do is just check your hardware and make sure everything's hooked up correctly. So I have an amplifier and I have a Shure SM57 microphone placed in front of that amplifier. So right now I'm recording in mono with just one microphone. And then over here on my desk, I have a little Focusrite audio interface, and I have the microphone cable plugged into input 1. And you see there's numbers there. So this part of the equation's good. I've got all the hardware hooked up, and then from there it's running into the computer. Now, in order to hear it on the computer, you need to go to your mixer window, and I'll just show you really quick. There's a keyboard shortcut to get to your mixer window back and forth, really easy. If you hold Command and then push the plus sign at the top, Command plus, Command plus, Command plus, it lets you toggle back and forth between those windows. When you're working in Pro Tools, you're going to be doing that a lot. You know, the mix window. So you don't want to have to take your mouse over and click on it every time. That takes a lot of time, and anyway. So, okay. So I am recording Guitar 1 onto this track that I've already got named. It's named Guitar 1 right here. And I want to introduce you to the input path selector, which is right up here. So the input path selector has an I and an O above it, ins and outs, input, output. And when you click on that, you have a drop-down menu. See how it already says interface? And from this menu, you're going to pick the input that is going into this track. Right now, I have a check mark by input 1. And so I've already got it set to where it needs to be. So, so that's great. So, you know, from here, you can, you know, put this track to a lot of different places. I just barely sent it to bus 7 if I had a reason to do that. But since my microphone is hooked up to input 1, I'm going to need to make sure that input 1 is selected here. What if my microphone was set up to input 2? Well, then if that was the case, I would need to make sure I selected input 2 from the drop-down menu, like I did on this next track. Let me also just remind you that we're recording in mono right now, one microphone and one signal, but it's also possible to record in stereo with 2 microphones. And when you do that, you have this kind of track, a stereo track. See how there's 2 meters on it? On this mono track, there's just 1 meter that goes up and down. And on the stereo track, there's 2, one for each of the signals that you got there. And when you work with the input on the stereo track, notice it says input 1 and 2, because a stereo track is going to have 2 inputs, 2 microphones running into it. So it runs them in unison and puts them both there. So anyway, that's kind of how stereo tracks work. But so, all right. So now I have my input lined up with my microphone, so I know that's working. Now, one more thing. In order to record on a track, you have to record enable that track. And record enable means you just click the record button at the top. Oops, I just clicked it and now it's not blinking. That means it is not enabled. So I'm going to click it again and now it's blinking. Notice what happens down here to the fader when I record enable the track. As soon as I click on it to record enable, the fader turns red, letting me know that that track is ready to record, as opposed to these other gray faders, which still look the same. Is it possible to record more than one track at a time? Yes, it is. So you can record as many tracks at a time as you have inputs to. So if you have one of these Focusrite Scarletts, they usually have 2 inputs. You can only do 2 mics at a time or 2 tracks at a time. But if you have a larger, bigger interface, you know, you can, the sky's the limit with how many tracks you can record at a time. So anyway, you have to record enable the track, and that lets the program know where to record the sound to, which track to record it to. Now there's 2 record buttons. There's one here that I just pushed, and then there's one here. So which record button are we using? Well, we're using both of them. This is the transport window that I'm moving right here, and this is where the official record button is. Also the play button, also the stop button, and the fast forwards and the rewinds. So so after you record enable the track, you're gonna click the record button right here, and then it's gonna start recording, like I just did right there. So anyway, I just recorded some little tracks here that I'm now going to get rid of. Okay, but there's one more step before you can start recording. This is the frustrating part, because you're gonna do all this, then you're gonna start recording, and then you're gonna listen back and be like, oh man, that doesn't sound so good. Oh, what was going on with that? Or maybe it was too loud, so it sounded really bad. You got the clipping, the distortion sound. Before you can record, you need to set your level. You need to have whoever's playing the instrument play it for a while and find out where the loudest part is and set your level to that so that you don't clip or over record into the system. So what I mean by that is I'm going to go back to the mixer window, and over here, guitar 1, I'm going to zoom in and look what happens to this meter when I start playing the guitar. It turns green, letting me know that there is audio signal coming into this track. Green is good. Yellow is dangerous. Red is not good. Don't get into the red. Stay away from the red. And what I mean by that is, here I'm going to change the levels and show you what it's like when it's red. Ooh, I don't know if you heard that. That hurts my ears. I hope it doesn't damage my speakers too. You know, what I did is, well, I'll show you what I did. Oh, let me stop the share for just a second. So back to my audio interface here, you have these level controls on it to turn the level of your signal up or down. And I kind of cranked it. I took this and I cranked it really high. And when I did that, I got a really hot signal that overloaded my track that I was recording. So what you need to do is use this, this knob right here to set the level of your audio signal to make sure you're not recording too hot. And to make sure you're not recording too low. You could also set this low and then be getting a little teeny tiny signal, and then you're listening, you're like, why can't I hear myself? I can kind of hear it, it's not loud. And maybe you turn the fader up and nothing happens. So you need to do it manually on your audio interface, first of all. So let me kind of show you what that's like. So I'm gonna go back to my screen here, go back to sharing. Okay, so I'm going to set my level. I'm going to accidentally put it too low, so I'm getting less of a signal than I need. And anyway, but let me just tell you this. What you're trying to shoot for is somewhere in the range of -12 to -6 decibels. You never want to get it all the way to the top, and you want to leave a little bit of space at the top so that it won't clip, first of all. And so as I'm playing, I'm going to watch the meter. Right now, my green light is getting up to 20. Do you see that? Up to 20 decibels. I want to try and get it up to 12. So I'm going to turn that volume up just a little more, that gain on my audio interface. Ooh, that's in the neighborhood now, huh? Okay, maybe a little more if I'm trying to get to -6. Okay, I've got a level set. I'm not clipping. I'm not getting in yellow or red. That's good. That's going to sound good when I record. So anyway, setting up the level could be one of the most important steps you take. Whoa. Okay, I think I'm still on, but I lost. Oh, that was weird. Okay, I lost one of my screens. Oh well, I'm gonna assume that I'm still going. I pushed a button and something weird happened. Anyway, so it's an essential step that can help you to get set up for later on, and that's kind of important. Now, if I record right now as it is, I'm going to hear this when I record. A metronome click. I have a live mic in the room, and that mic is going to pick up whatever sound is in the room with me. So if you're recording in the same room where you're sitting and you have a metronome click, you probably don't want that metronome click to be in your recording. And that's why it's important that you have some headphones. You plug the headphones into your audio interface, and that way you can hear the click through your headphones, but your monitor, I have this monitor level right here. So for my monitor speakers, I can turn it up and down. When I'm recording, I'm going to turn that monitor all the way down because I don't want sound coming out of my monitors. Because if sound comes out of my monitors, it'll pick up in my mic, and that won't sound good. But I have the headphones jack and this little one on the side here. It's the volume for the headphones jack, so I can turn it up and down right there, so I can hear the click through my headphones. So anyway, I think we're ready to record. Yes, so let's do some recording. So I've got to make sure the track is armed, and it is. It's blinking right here. I'm going to push the record button and get the cursor back to the beginning of the song. And then I'm going to push play to record. Okay, you can hear the metronome click in here, but I don't think you can. And then to end the recording, you push the space bar again at the end. And then now the fun part, now you get to listen back and see how it sounds. In order to listen back, I've got to take my monitor level right here and I'm going to turn it back up so that the sound will come out of my monitor again. I could just listen back on the headphones too, but I want to listen on the monitor. Okay, and I can hear it. Great, it worked. It was successful. But I hear the click too. I don't want to hear that click. So I'm going to turn off the metronome. Now I just hear the audio signal that I want to hear. Now, this first record take is really like a trial and error, and you don't want to well, what you're listening for is you want to hear if anything's clipping. You want to listen and make sure it all sounds clean. And like when you hit an extra loud sound, you want to make sure that it doesn't accidentally just like clip the sound, because you can hear it. Digital distortion is not a good sound, and you'll recognize it if you're listening for it. So if that's the case, then you want to adjust the levels again, maybe turn down your input. But anyway, it's important to do that before you officially start recording your session, because otherwise you could be working with somebody and get a bunch of takes and then 2 hours later realize, oh, all these takes are bad because they're clipping and I didn't realize it at the time. So anyway, so we just recorded our first track and we got that in there. And I want to point out to you something that happened when we created that clip. The difference between a whole file clip and a subset clip. So every time you record into Pro Tools, the clip you record shows up right here in the clips list. You see over here on your right now we have one clip, and that's why there's only one clip here. But in a normal session, it'll have clips listed all the way down to the bottom of this black space right here. So anyway, this is the main clip. If I highlight it over here, you can see it, and it's called guitar1_03. So that's the name of it. So what happens to a clip when you start editing it and cutting it in pieces? Well, I'm going to do that right here. I'm going to drop my cursor. I'm going to cut it. And when I do that, it just barely created two subset clips. You see that right here? So now we have these subset clips, and they were created from our whole file clip. But anyway, these subset clips, the way you can recognize them is there's an extra underscore. So right here, 10301, so that means it's a subset clip, or 02. So that's the two halves of the whole file clip that I just split in half. So one thing you can do if you wanted to, you could come here to the clips list and click on a clip, and you could drag it and bring it over here into your session, and you could drop it into your session. And so right there, you have the clip. It's right there in your session. Isn't that great? So that's one way you can arrange your clips when you're working in Pro Tools. I actually don't want to put it right there. But another cool thing to understand is that, let's see, so I just barely undid everything I just did. But what happens if you have this audio recording you just recorded and you want to get rid of it? Well, I've selected it here and I can push delete. So watch what happens. I'm going to push delete. Now it's gone, but is it gone in the clip list? No, it's not. It is still right here listed in the clip list, that whole file clip. So the clip list will hold everything you record in your session, which could be great because let's say you accidentally deleted that. You could come here to the clip list, click on it, and drag it back into your session, and there is your file again. And it's once again in your session, and it's not lost forever. So you can use that as a resource for arranging clips as you move through them. But just keep in mind, when you start cutting clips in pieces, those are called subset clips. And the original clip that you record is called the whole file clip. And then sometimes you look at this big name over here and you say, well, that is a big name and it's way too long. I don't like it. So you can change the name if you want to by clicking on it and then right-clicking. And there's an option here. It says rename. So, and then this box opens up to naming the clip. I'm going to call this clip Cantaloupe. And you can name the clip only or name the clip and disk file. I'm going to name them both. And now in my clip list, there's a descriptive name letting me know what that clip actually is. It's the Cantaloupe clip because I just barely named it that. So you can rename these clips. Now what happens if you want to get rid of a clip in the clip section? Can you do that? Well, yes, you can. In order to do that, all you have to do is highlight the clip, and then right-click. And when you get that, you get an option that says clear. Notice it says clear, not delete. Why? Because you have some options for how you're clearing or deleting. This operation clears the selected clips. So I can push the remove button and it will remove that clip from the clips list. Am I sure that I want to do it? Sure. What we're going to do now is learn how to import audio files into the session. And to do that, come here to File and go to Import, and then select Audio. And notice that in this menu for import, you can also import a MIDI file or a video clip, a video file. So this is where you would go if you were trying to import any of those other file types too. But we're going to go for audio right here. And when I do that, I have this file here that opens up with all these different options. So on the top of this menu, it shows me an option of where I could get an audio file from. I'm going to click on one of those options so I can see it here. And notice that it shows up in clips in current file. Now, as it happens, I happen to know that this file is in a different tempo than the other session I'm pulling it from. And so what I'm going to do, instead of clicking add, I'm going to click convert. When I do that, it will convert all the parameters of the file to the parameters of my session, my current session that I'm opening up. So I'm going to push the convert button, and now it's on that side. And now I'm going to push open. So if the file doesn't need to be converted, you could just push add as well. But here's open, and so now it's going to ask me, where do I want to save this file to? And I'm going to want to save it to the audio files folder, which is already highlighted. So I'm going to push open again. And now it asks me an interesting question. It asks me, where do I want this audio file to appear? Do I want it to appear as a new track in the session, or do I want it to appear in the clip list? So I want it to appear as a new track, so I'm going to go ahead and push OK. But if I had said clip list, then it would have showed up here in the clip list, and from here I could click on it and drag it into my session. And maybe I want to do that because it was an organ track and I wanted to drop it on the organ track or something. But anyway, now if we listen, we can hear what that track sounds like that I just imported. Ah, it's a bass line. Yeah, that's just what my song needed, right? So anyway, that's how you import files into your session. And there's one more way that you can import different kinds of audio files into your session, and it's called using the Workspace Browser. And to get there, you have to come up here to Window, and then you go down here to where it says New Workspace, and then from there, click on Default. And now you're in your Workspace Browser. Now, when you first come up here, it's going to be empty. So you need to click the Advanced Search button, which is this almost hard to see, but it's this magnifying glass with the plus sign. That's the Advanced Search button. And I'm going to click that. And when I do, it basically pulls up anything and everything I have on my computer that could be imported into the session. It's actually too much, right? I don't need all of that, and it's a lot to sift through. So it has a built-in sifting mechanism right here. I'm going to go to the word kind for kind of track, and then I'm going to pick audio file. So now it's going to look up just audio files, and from here I can pick an audio file and I can bring it into my session. So why don't I pick, I don't know, anything? I'll just pick something. I'm going to pick it. I'm going to push Option down. And as I push Option down, I'm going to click on it and drag it and then drop it into the session. And yay, it should appear. Oh, that was a small clip. Huh, what's it sound like though? Did you hear that? It was like a little warpy sound. Oh, that was cool. That's how you can import audio files into your session. You can use that Workspace browser, or you could just go to File, Import, and get it in by there. And sometimes that's what you're trying to do, right? You want to do a session, but you need to import your files. But anyway, thank you for coming and watching, and please let me know if you have any questions, and let me know if you want to meet up for a virtual office hour sometime. All right, I'll see you later.